Welcome, folks, to your Reality Gurus, the show we take a commonsensical approach to issues through complex conversation. You know I'm your host, T. Cleve, and first things first, good morning, good morning, good morning. Don't be rude, get in the comments, and say it right back. Make sure you check out that youtube.com/Reality Guru show and consider subscribing. We can introduce you to my folks. Got my man, as always, DB, Anye, returning guest Ian. What's up, champ? How you feeling, brother?
Good morning, good morning.
And then we got my man Jamie, Axe Onslaught. Axe, how you doing, champ? All
What
right,
up, though?
folks, y'all see the title, Accountability in the Culture. So let's go ahead and back up a little bit. We do know that some months back, this Surviving R. Kelly thing popped up and, opened up the conversation for some things we knew about with regard to him. But to extend it a little more, because in social media, the comments and stuff was pretty mixed. There was some individuals that were like, yeah, R. Kelly's he's a demon, he's an animal. But then there was some who looked at it as, well, this is a double standard. How come they don't do the same things to white guys or whatever? So it sparked up the conversation about accountability in the culture. The idea of, even though there might be some double standards, in our culture, if we want to live a certain way, we have to be accountable for our actions, and that means also holding others in the culture accountable. So, I'm gonna go ahead and jump to Jamie real quick because I know he was really passionate about this topic. So Jamie, go ahead. And as far as how you want to delve into this, what you want to go into as far as accountability in the culture?
First of all, I got to clarify this before we dig too deep into this. I'm going to establish the fact that, we all know that the deck is stacked against us. We all know that we don't get this same treatment as everyone else. Maybe some like white people that have committed similar crimes and, don't get the same justice and things like that. All right. But my point with all this is, and it's not just the R. Kelly issue, all right? My point with all this is, like, at the end of the day, what this dude did, it doesn't warrant the fact, the conversation of, well, what about this one? What about that one? My problem is we can't just say this dude destroyed the lives of countless number of young black girls and black women and leave it at that. You know what I mean? Like, we're always searching for some sort of, conspiracy or this, that, and the third, or why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? And that's what I mean by accountability. You know what I mean? Like the thing with Jussie Smollet, right? and it's always the celebrities, because that's when it really comes out. All right, everybody doing the end zone dance now because he just got off on that thing, and that's cool. And he did like white people do all the time, whatever. But at the end of the day, this dude's still trash because the video clearly shows them dudes buying the stuff and faking this hate crime, man. No one's looking at the fact of, man, that disrespects people that really go through hate crimes. Like, this dude faked a hate crime, and that disrespects the struggle that people have gone through, that really gone through this thing, and sometimes the memory of people don't make it out the other side.
Before I want to cut you off, but before, when you say who is it that's not holding, say for instance, Jussie Smollett accountable? You talking about black people? Well, who are you talking about?
Yes, black people, the black community, like us as a whole. Instead of and like I said, like we can't differentiate the fact that, okay, yeah, we're subject to a different type of justice, but at the same time, sometimes we just gotta put that aside and say, hey, this person is trash. No matter that, this person is trash, and we don't need to make any excuses for what this person did.
Well,
you know what I mean? And that's what I'm finding a lot of.
If I just jump back to R. Kelly real quick, because you set it off with him, but what about his family? I mean, the family members of these females. Are you throwing them into this pot too, as far as accountability, sir?
I mean, look. This is what I'm gonna say, and I've said the same thing about Mike, but I ain't gonna go there. I ain't gonna let my kids go with anybody. Me personally, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't necessarily let my kids go with other people in my family, let alone somebody I don't know, somebody that has a history of, you know, this pedophilia and stuff like that. So yeah, that's crazy. And there's accountability to be had there, right? But at the same time, it doesn't absolve the fact that, yo, this dude did this. There's video evidence he did it. He has a history of doing it. And I mean, once, you know, the chickens are coming to roost and he's getting caught up, why are we having this conversation? Like, you know, well, why didn't anybody say something before, or well, they didn't do this to so and so? Nah, man, like your stomach should be turning once all these details come out. Like instead of making excuses for this dude. You know what I mean?
I agree. I just guess I figured I'd ask you about the relatives of the victims, because as far as I'm concerned, if we talking about accountability and we talking about R. Kelly's situation specifically over the course of 30 some odd years,
right?
Yeah, those motherfuckers need to be in the,
right,
you know, in the conversation about being accountable. But Ian, let me
and G, you know what? I don't doubt that. And I'm gonna tell you, whoever facilitated this too needs to be held accountable as well, because it wasn't just him. People had to facilitate it too, and help him and everything too. So they need to be held accountable too. Like if not, I venture to say it's not more harsh than him, because you help this go. You see what's going on, and you help it flourish. So you know, I'm not saying the whole onus is on him. Everyone surrounding him and allow this to happen needs to be on him. But my point is, and I hate to keep dragging you know, this R. Kelly thing along, but it's just a prime example. When you look around and, like, you know, on social media and things like this, you hear people talking, it's like I hear a lot of excuses instead of saying, yo, you know, this dude needs to fry. You know what I mean? Like come on, man. Because no matter what happened, at the end of the day, he destroyed young black girls' lives. And this is what black women say all the time. They don't feel protected because I see a lot of victim blaming. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so now you're going a little deep into the R. Kelly thing, and no, just because I want to explain, but when you say things like victim blaming specifically to that situation, if there's other things that I might want to say about that. So I mean, I don't know how deep you guys want to go into that, but if the victim, listen.
Yeah. I didn't want it to turn into R. Kelly. I know you didn't want it to turn into R. Kelly, but like, I guess what I'm saying is that's the one of the situations that, like, you know, and I've said this for years, you know what I mean, about when things happen. You know, you feel what I'm saying? Like a situation I bring up, and I was guilty of this too, like when OJ was going through the whole thing, right? And I said, man, he ain't do that shit. Now, and you come to find out years ago, I don't know if y'all watched that documentary, OJ Made in America. Not only if you watch that and don't think OJ did that shit, you damn fool. And then you watch it and you realize OJ didn't give a fuck about you, bro. He didn't give a fuck. He might be one of the few black people that benefited from white privilege. But how many of us had this man's back? No one, like, you know what I mean? He was damn wrong. But at the end of the day, he didn't give a shit about none of us. You know what I mean?
Ian, you hearing Jamie talking about a lot of things. R. Kelly, Jussie Smollett, mentioned OJ and stuff like that, man. So in terms of accountability in the culture, man, how you feel? You feel the way he feels, or you have something else to add to this, brother?
I mean, that's a tightrope, because you have to backdrop, right? You gotta understand the setup of our culture, right? The history of it, which is we have perpetually been scapegoats. And not only have we been scapegoats, we have been the victims of any unspeakable, numerous amounts of crimes. So when we talk about rape, you know, just 100 years ago, there was no such thing as raping a black woman.
Exactly.
Right. Rape a black woman. It was, I mean, by definition of it legally, you could not rape a black woman. You could have a black woman you wanted. You could not rape a black man, right? You could sodomize any black man you wanted. It was completely legal. There were no laws that prevented that. So that went on for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and that's been passed down to us in the DNA of our culture. So now, when you look at us today, right, having that in our DNA, because it's not like the history is gone, right? It's there. So when we have a chance to say, hey, you know, we feel more equal, right? A black man is raped or has been accused of raping a white woman and he gets off. It feels good to us just because of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of white men raping black men and women and it just being a non-issue. And, you know, that's a little psychotic, but we are psychotic. We're psychotic culture because of the way that we've been raised, the way that we've been formed. So when you think about accountability, you have to take that into account first. Celebrities are a little different because they're in the limelight, right? Everything with them is magnified. But I bring it back to something like we had a rapist in Central Park. I think this was like 20 years ago, something like that. It was this rapist in Central Park, right? And it was on the news. This guy face, I think, was on the news. They had flyers all over the place, and a white woman was still jogging in the park. You know what I'm saying? 2 a.m, and he's getting more. So it was like, okay, yeah, the rapist is the rapist. It's his fault that he's raping people. Nobody should rape anybody. But at the same time, if you know there's a rapist out there, right, and you know he hasn't been caught yet, why would you go jogging in the park at 2 a.m. by yourself? Right? So bring that back to R. Kelly. Okay. Bring that back to R. Kelly, right? I got a videotape of him pissing on some little girl, right? Now, in our country, that's statutory rape. Pissing on a girl and having sex with her in our culture. That's not rape in every culture, but in our culture it is, right? So now you know this. You've seen this tape and your family, and you say, hey, I want R. Kelly to take my girl to whatever, sleep over, or I want him to groom my little girl to be the next star, whatever the case is. They're going to spend time in his house overnights and so on and so forth. But you've already seen this tape. You know what he does, right? It's accountability on both ends. Because, R. Kelly he's sick. There's something wrong with him. You know what I'm saying? There's something wrong with the guy. But I'm going to hold the parents more accountable because you already know the lion's going to bite. You know what I'm saying? The lion's going to eat meat. R. Kelly's going to rape your child, right? By definition, if she's a child, she's going to be raped because that's what he does. But you as a parent, you putting him in the lion's den. So I hold you more accountable for that.
And I listen, 150%. I salute you on that because that's what I was referring to with Jamie with the whole victim blaming. I wasn't sure you wanted to open this because we could touch on that. I had people on social media go crazy because I was saying things that they thought could be considered victim blaming. You understand what I'm saying? But again.
I mean, bro, let me tell you, like, I watched the whole documentary. I'm sitting there with my wife watching this documentary, and I got just as enraged at the parents than that I did with R. Kelly too. So trust, I hear where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. You feel what I'm saying? But I feel like a lot of that becomes more to the forefront than actually what this dude did. You feel what I'm saying? Like, or the people surrounding him.
Let me just say this: how could R. Kelly be a serial rapist if the relatives of these victims weren't complicit for all these years?
Well, and let me stop you there, because now we know a couple situations where the girls, the parents were involved, but this dude also was going to shopping malls and McDonald's and places where teenagers hang out and scooping them up there. So the parents weren't involved. Like the parents, it wasn't a situation.
They were involved.
What's that?
So Shay, let me get you in, Shay. So you're hearing Jamie, you're hearing Ian, but honestly, Ian brought up a real interesting point about the history and how because there was no laws against rape against blacks and sodomy against black men, that shit's passed through in our DNA. That's a real. I mean, that's a real interesting point he's bringing up. So talk to me. You mentioned off cam about, say, R. Kelly or individuals like R. Kelly. Chances are they had this type of victimization done to them when they were younger, right? So How much do you take that into account? Like Ian's saying, when these situations pop up, how much do you personally?
Well, for me, I don't. And kind of just to touch on what Ian said, as far as if you go into the park and there was a rapist, why would you go into the park? Because people in the back of their head always have this mindset: it won't happen to me. You understand what I'm saying? So I can go jogging. I'm exempt from this rule. This won't happen to me. And so as a result of it, when it does happen to you, it's like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Like no one is expecting that. So I don't think necessarily that people have this disposition that, hey, I'm just going to go running in the park, because they don't want to, stop their routine, because that's not going to happen to me. And Jamie, just to kind of touch on the point where you said he was going to the shopping malls and all of this stuff looking for kids. Yeah. And you said their parents had nothing to do with that. They absolutely did. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, all teaching all ends and begins in your household. So what you teach your kids is acceptable or not acceptable is what they're going to continue to do. Granted, you cannot control them because with the peer pressure. But in the back of their mind, they still know right from wrong.
They know right from wrong, Shay, but come on now. We got older kids, and we know you can arm your kids with all the right thing to do and all that. But around age of 16, 17, no matter what you told them, they're going to do what the fuck they want to do. Yeah, now, we hope and pray as parents that they take what we taught them.
Jamie, listen, I raised 3 young men. So you're absolutely correct, right? So I'm not saying that they do, but in the back of their mind, they still know right from wrong. So for instance, and I say that to say this, right? Excuse me. I say that to say this. Have you ever, like, you're a parent, have you ever realized that some of the things you do that your mother and them used to say, or you start saying to your kids what your mother used to tell you?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So those is things that you heard when you were a little bitty kid that somewhere in the back of your mind instilled in you, and you did that. The reality of it is these parents nowadays aren't teaching their kids. Social media, video games, YouTube, video music, all of that is teaching their kids.
Well, hey, listen. I'm gonna say this, man. Y'all got a couple things going on here, but the gurus got to go ahead and weigh in. So, DB, Anya, listen to what's going on from Jamie, Shay, and Ian. DB, where you at on this accountability in the culture, man? Talk to me. Got a lot to touch on. R. Kelly, Jussie Smollett, OJ, the whole bunch of shit, man. Talk to me.
I got a couple of things, really, honestly. Like, first of all, just with accountability, I want to throw that out because it was on my mind. It's not necessarily, I don't think Black people hold accountable, is that we just talk about the whole community, which I think that is not ever really going to happen, where we all hold everybody accountable. If you go case by case and we're talking about R. Kelly, you will have people that will say, yeah, I hold him accountable. There's some people that won't for whatever different reason. But even if you look at the fact of, sometimes I think a lot of the accountability is who has the loudest voice. If you think about who pretty much produced that show, Surviving R. Kelly, Dream Hampton, and the people behind the Mute R. Kelly campaign, they are Black women. So, they are trying to hold them accountability. So a lot of that is in the whole. So I think we gotta take that into play. On another angle, though, honestly, with the thing that we're talking about with 100 years ago with the rape and not Black woman, if you're raping a Black woman 100 years ago would not be considered a crime. I think that holds a lot into how we see accountability as a whole. I mean, celebrities essentially become targets when these situations happen, but it doesn't talk about the community as a whole. And just building off of what Shay says, like when we get into certain situations and we place ourselves in those situations, some of that sometimes comes into play when we think about the situation as a whole. So, I think Dr. Umar said this best, and I think about it, when you think about something like a Bill Cosby, the implications is not just about Bill Cosby itself, it's the implication of what could happen to Black men in America, period. So if you were put into that situation, that same thing can happen to you. So you have to look at it in that aspect. I mean, the thing about accountability, we can only hold people personally accountability through our criticism of them, but we don't necessarily hold the power control to actually fully hold them accountable. So they're not in our hands. So basically, if we was put in that same situation, we could be treated worse, honestly, because we're not celebrities. We don't have some of that power of money or that power of fame.
First of all, if we're talking about the ability to hold them accountable, if we're talking about an R. Kelly situation, what was stopping the people around from holding him accountable? What are you talking about? What do you mean by that?
No, they don't. But that's somebody, that's personal connection. I mean, once the situation already actually happened, like most of the stuff we're talking about is the outlook. At least what we started this conversation is the outlook after the situation happened. Once that person is put out there for a show, and we talk about it, those people are fully accountable, and they should. They didn't because they were influenced some way. In my opinion, they're influenced by the money, the fame, the opportunity that they got from being around R. Kelly. And they fed it more than anything else, and they should be held accountable.
All right, well,
don't get me
that's
wrong.
what you're saying. If that's what you're saying at the end of the day, then you know I'm off that, and I'm gonna give Ye a chance to come in here and weigh in on the situation. Accountability in the culture. What's going on with you?
Yeah, well, first off, we got to get to a point to where we establish some type of standards in our community of accountability. What are the things that we need to be held accountable for, and make it clear cut to our people that these are the things we are not tolerating in our community. And if you do these things, these are the repercussions of such. We need to gain some type of structure. But when we're dealing with this R. Kelly situation specifically, it's like a microcosm of our community. A lot of these rape cases, molestation cases have gone on in our community for years, and in a lot of our families. Well, a lot of these young girls and young boys, their voices aren't being heard. But because we love this family member so much, we can't believe that he would do something like this. Or in an R. Kelly situation, because we love this man so much because of his music, we can't see the bullshit that he's done. And we'll overlook these young voices. But when we're talking about accountability, we have to be accountable for these children. We have to protect babies. We have to give these children a platform to allow their voice to be heard and believe them, you know? But a question I have is, being in the society as such, where we don't really have the power over ourselves to a certain extent, to what degree can we hold ourselves accountable? Because I'll use examples of like spots in Africa, specifically in Nigeria. When people there, when they do things against the community, you get a leg chopped off, you get a hand chopped off, or you getting killed for certain things that you do. You know what I'm saying? That we want to stop in the community, but we're under another group's regulation in this country, so it becomes slightly confusing. We got to figure this thing out as a community.
Let me ask this. I'm actually coming to you, Shay, because I want to ask you this question because I thought it was interesting. Jamie mentioned something about how women, have the argument that black men don't protect them. When you start thinking about some of these situations, like with your R. Kellys and shit like that. So, I mean, how you feel as a black woman? Or do you think that black men as a whole do a good job of protecting their black women?
Wow.
Let me not say as a whole, because that's unfair. We can't really judge on that, and I don't want to really get into, like what we see on TV. But in general, for you and what you see in your surroundings, is there something to what Jamie is saying about us, as black men dropping the ball, and not, taking care of our black women, making sure that they're protected? That's the accountability that I want to think about now. I don't want to think about what we can do personally,
I think that I'm going to take it a little bit deeper than that. I think that black men overall drop the ball, not just on black women, but on their own black children, their black boys being raised. So, because the reality of it is these young men these older men, right, that aren't being accountable or not treating women the way they are supposed to be treated. It comes back from men leaving the household, or men, when they do get into a woman's life, not taking on the responsibility of that child and teaching them and grooming them because they say that that's not my child. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. So I don't think that it's necessarily that you feel in just black women. I think that black men in general, not all, because there's always exceptions to every rule, don't look at and teach black young boys how to treat a woman.
It's funny
because a lot of them don't know, period. A lot of them don't know.
And let me chime in on that. That's why we need to set concrete standards, because everybody's going on their own wave of trying to figure this out. And he's just like, you know what, I'm gonna do it my way. That's the way I do it. Stay the fuck up there, stay out of my business. But again, with accountability, this is why we need to have circles of brothers, circles of sisters, calling each other out for their bullshit. Say, hey, as a group, we saying that right there that you doing.
Anye, but here's my question, right? And I always had this thought process, right? If you take R. Kelly and you take your Bill Cosby, if you think about the media, they're making it seem like we're the face of pedophilia.
Yes.
When pedophilia has been going on in the European culture for so long.
Yes.
If you look at the church and the priests are the biggest child molesters that are out there.
Yes.
Right? And as a result of that, what's the guy from Penn State?
Sandusky.
The one that was doing
Sandusky,
right? Sandusky being swept under the rug. I mean, they made it a big issue for a hot second, and then you never heard about it again.
I mean, he went to jail for the rest of his life. There's really no reason to talk about him no more. It was pretty big for a while, to be fair. But let me ask you a question. So when a priest is molesting them, they hide them inside of the diocese. And right. But you know what? They're getting exposed right now. They're getting I've never seen the Catholics get exposed like they're getting exposed.
Jamie, you ain't never lie. I saw real quick. I'm gonna let you get back into it. But as far as that comment, I saw one of these class action lawyer commercials. Hey, if you ever they said there is like $1 billion, and if the Catholic Church and it came across, I'm in PA, all right, and it came across.
But you know why? You know why? Because it's a different culture now. You understand? If you look at our mamas and our fathers.
Okay, I'm gonna let you finish. Back in the different culture.
Did you ever get a statement? What happens in my house stays in my house.
Yeah, but listen. We're talking about we're not talking about black culture anymore. Now you moving. So if you're talking about another racist culture, and historically they've been exempt from this shit from the criticism. Well, not that that's the criticism, but from the subpoenas. The indictments, they've been exempt from that shit. They've gotten criticism over the years from everyone, but no one's ever come through where you see this lawyer thing come across the TV, and they want people who consider themselves victims to give us a call. But that is with religion as a whole. And let me tell you, there's so much with the pedophilia that gets swept under the rug with in terms of religious organizations. And I can't necessarily say it's always just because it's white thing. Like, I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, right, which was forced upon me. A lot of people don't know they have one of the biggest sexual assault against children issues, probably as big, if not bigger, than the Catholic Church. And they have paid out millions of dollars, because they sweep it under the rug. And you know something else? They have an extremely large African-American membership. And not only membership, their governing body, which is their leadership, there's a few black dudes on the governing body. So but still they pay millions in covering up child sex abuse. So sometimes it's not just with the Europeans. Like, I get it. I know what Shay's saying. I'm not saying that. I think we live in a culture right now, which in my opinion is a good thing, where we're more willing to expose these crimes against children. Because at the end of the day, we're here for the community, but I'm advocating children, period. I don't want to see nothing happen to children, period. You know what I'm saying?
But one of the issues that we having right now with our current society is that we are retrofitting our point of view, right, to past tense situations, right? So pedophilia, when you think about it as a negative thing, is very new, right? Throughout human history, you can't really think of too many cultures where a 14-year-old woman, 13-year-old woman were being married off. That was just normal in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in the Americas, right? It didn't matter where you were. That was normal. First off, because
I tell people that all the time. My great grandmother was 14 years old.
We might only know my grandfather like 40 years old, or 45, or 60, or whatever the case is. So you had to start having kids quick. Otherwise, the society might die off, right? It's only recent now that we've had medical advances, technological advances, where we live out longer. And now, you know, maybe having sex and marrying a 12-year-old isn't, it's not necessary. But that's recent. It's not something that's been, you know, like pedophilia, when you look back in the ages, it's not like, oh, that's always been a bad thing. It's generally been accepted. Matter of fact, when you go to a lot of places in the world, it still is. It's still a thing.
This is what I want to understand, because that's interesting. I'll be 40 towards the end of this year. And as long as I can remember, pedophilia has always been a negative thing, right? So I want to know what time frame that you're talking about where pedophilia wasn't looked at as a negative thing. That's one.
Let me help Ian out, because even if you go to the DSM, right, which is the which is what we use to give these people these diagnoses of pedophilia and stuff like that. Right. There was a time that wasn't even in the DSM. It was not considered a psychosis because it was normal.
Wait. See, that's what I'm saying. When you say because it was normal, right? When did it officially become abnormal? I told you I'll be 40 towards the end of this year, and I don't remember a time in that 40-year period that pedophilia was looked at as a positive thing. So I need somebody to tell me what time frame y'all talking about.
Let me jump in real quick. If I could.
Doing real quick is you're putting you're doing a double negative. He's not saying that it's
he did. No, stop. He did. No, listen. Let me tell you what I heard. Let me tell you. Listen. If I'm making something, if I'm hearing something incorrect, then y'all clear it up now. What I heard Ian say is that pedophilia being a negative thing is new. NEW, which means before that, it was accepted. He gave examples.
I disagree with that, but I feel like Ian's talking about two different things. And let me jump in here real quick. What Ian is speaking of is statutory rape, which is wrong. But people did back in the days because life expectancy, blah 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 blah. I know what he's talking about, but I feel like there's a difference between statutory rape, which let me point out is wrong, is disgusting, and pedophilia. Pedophilia is people who they desire children. Like, you know what I mean?
What's the difference? What's the difference?
Because the difference is usually with statutory rape, when things like that, people, they targeting teenagers, preteens and whatever, and I'm not saying it's right. And they marry the young wives of somebody, it's young so they can, bear them children or whatever. You know what I mean? I think it's two different things. I think they're both discussed.
Let me get. Okay, well, hold on, Shay, Jamie. Let me get DB and Anya back in here, because now I need to know.
So what I'm starting to hear in the conversation, and I kind of feel in a little bit. Okay, so as of recent years, now it's big in the media going after pedophilia and with the whole Me Too movement or whatnot. And let's differentiate between small children getting raped and men trying to date young girls that's like almost 18. Because let's not act like we didn't go to them high schools where it was older dudes picking up the young girls from our high school. You know what I'm saying? That was going on in our community and around our high schools. That was the norm. But now you ain't getting away with that. You ain't getting no pass with that. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so all right. So now all right, that's cool. Because I did say in 40 years, I don't remember when it was ever acceptable. See, now we're talking about the differences, because even then, right, as 14-year-old seeing these girls be picked up by older dudes, at 14, it was strange in the sense that like damn, they ain't even giving us a chance, but not in the sense that they're being victimized. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what.
See, yeah, that was accepted. But, I don't think over the last 40 years raping little girls or molesting little girls.
No, listen what I'm saying. In California, right? I'm hearing that California has upheld some, or had passed legislation that's allowing for minors to get, married if they have like parental consent. So I'm understanding.
That is correct.
I mean, there's about 19 states that actually have that on the books. There's 19 states that are.
So I'm asking. I'm going to go back to Ian. Listen, the time frame we talking about. I didn't look because you got me thinking, man. I haven't gone through the Bible too much. I don't know word for word, but from what I understand, there are some passages in there where you see examples of what we're talking about, and they even go as far as like incest due to survival of the human race. Right? Is that what you're talking about? Back then, it was more about listen. As soon as these girls get to childbearing years, soon as they have their menstruation, listen, we got to get to it because we need to keep the humanity intact. Is that what you were saying? And then now, as the advancements in technology and stuff, and we're living longer, now we don't have to do that anymore. Now we can wait until they're 18, and that's what's not making sense to me.
But you did. But you said in your 40 years you didn't see it. Look at The Color Purple, right? If you look at The Color Purple and you take Steely, right? She was given to this man who was an older man to clean, raise his kids, and use for sex, correct? And if you're not understanding, she just says Harpo just climbed on top of me and took care of his business, right? So this has been going on in our community long before R. Kelly, long before Bill Cosby and all of this other stuff. This has been going on. It was glorified in one of the best movies out there. By Oprah.
Shay, you know why it's hard? You know why it's hard to, because even though Whoopi Goldberg was playing a 16-year-old, she wasn't 16. So now we're looking at what. But here's what I'm saying. My point is, and especially at that time, when did Color Purple come out? In the late 80s? Now, at that age, even then, I wasn't looking at it as victimization through like rape. I was looking at it as he was just a piece of shit, and he was a womanizer, and he was, that's how I'm saying me at that age. I'm talking about the idea.
There's a scene in the movie where the girl was clearly schoolgirls. He trying to rape the girl on the way to school.
No. But again, these are grown women playing children, is what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? It's different when you're actually seeing. That's what I'm talking about. Where is this stuff going on and it's acceptable? I understand that down in the South, shit like this used to go on, and that's.
I mean, it went on in the North too. Because, like I said, bro, like I'm from Pennsylvania. Like, yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania. My great grandmother, she married my great grandfather. She was like 15, and he was like 40 something.
Right.
Like,
so all right. So listen, y'all educate me then.
You gotta understand this, man. You gotta understand this. You have to look at nature, right? The natural process of what the body goes through. When a woman's body is able to reproduce, it lets men know, right? So that's with the development of breasts and then certain hormonal factors that let off, secretions or whatever the case is that we react to. And that can happen as young as like 12 or 13 years old, right? But society dictates now that a woman or a man is not capable of making cognitive decisions about their sexual activity until they're 18 years old, right? So that goes against what naturally happens. In the past, it's kind of like humanity just followed the natural course of things. And so when a woman was ready to have sex without damaging her, right? When she was ready to give birth without killing her or damaging her in some, obscene way, then it happened, right? It's only recent. And I'm not talking about within the past 50 years. I'm talking about within like the past 100, maybe 80, 150 years. When we talk about societies, right? America is brand new. So when you talk about like African societies that have been around for, tens of thousands, 20,000, 30,000 years, what we see now is pedophilia, which is maybe a 14-year-old and a 25 or 30-year-old man. It's just natural. It's normal because a 35-year-old man is still very fertile, right? And a 14-year-old woman or 14-year-old girl, as we call them now, is extremely fertile and can have many children, right?
Can I ask a question?
14, and then you can keep going until however long, until your ovaries bust. You know what I'm saying? But that was the thought process.
Can I ask a question though? Because we're talking about the structure now. We're talking about the social structure now, which means that since it's unacceptable, usually the act of molestation is involved. right? Which could be a violent process on the individual and the mind state because of the social structure. So when we bring it back to accountability, what does that mean? Are we just blaming it on the social structure of America, or we're taking the blame away from the people that are actually molesting these young kids?
So DB, this is why I was. Go ahead, Shay. Go ahead.
Finish that question.
I was going to try and that's what I was going to tie it into, is that you have to look at, you can't just look at it in the bubble, right? It's not in a vacuum. It's not like, oh, boom, we just arrived on the scene. All of a sudden, Bill Cosby is a rapist, or all of a sudden, R. Kelly is a statutory rapist / rapist, right? It's Bill Cosby grew up in an era where it was normal, right? And accepted by society for a woman trying to get a job in Hollywood to take drugs and to go to parties and to go to celebrities' hotel rooms and houses and do unspeakable things. And that's just what it was. I was accepted. Women looked at each other and say, yeah, that's what we're going to do tonight. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go to Bill Cosby's room and we're going to try and get this going. I'm going to go to whoever's room. We're going to try and get a deal, right? Whether it was wrong or right, it was socially accepted at that time, right? Fast forward 50 years, it's no longer socially accepted. So socially
accepted without legislation, you mean? What I'm asking you, you're talking about socially accepted with or without legislation, meaning that even though it's illegal, you know, it's like jaywalking. Right. Ain't nobody go.
I'm not talking about when you get into legalities of things, right? Like slavery was legal, right? Did that make it right or wrong? You know what I'm saying? You can't really.
The reason I ask is I'm still looking for the time frame. When you say in the time frame, you said 150 years. So now inside that time frame, I'm trying to figure out what caused the shift. What causes what? Unless it's a white supremacy thing, because unless you're talking about so that's what you. So go ahead, get in there, open that up. That's what I'm trying to hear. What caused the shift?
I mean, you think about it. If you think about it, and you go back to then, right? When black women were being used for sex as sex objects and things of that nature, it was nobody's.
Go ahead, girl.
It is what it is. But the minute a white woman got raped, it became a problem. And that just goes back to PREA, right? Which is Prison Rape Elimination Act. Let's go there, right? Men were being raped. Men and women were being raped inside of that prison for years and years and years and years. Right. Where PREA came in at is when a senator's son got raped inside of the institution. And then they decided that they needed to do something in order to stop inmates from raping other inmates. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Well, no, absolutely.
Now they put in contact PREA, right?
Right.
It wasn't until
let's take it, Shay, let's take it even further right now, real quick. And I'm not gonna cut you off, but it, like growing up, the war on drugs is a criminal problem. It's a criminal problem. It's a criminal problem. Now politicians' kids is on drugs. Now it's a health issue.
Right.
So it's the same thing.
Correct. But I just kind of want to go back to something you said, Jamie, that kind of disturbed me. You said statutory rape is wrong, right?
Yes.
All right. Let me say this to you. In high school, you have high schoolers from 14 to the age of 21. So if
I know where you're going. I know where you're going with this.
So now, if you have a 12th grader that is 21 years old, start dating your 14-year-old child. Cognitively, because the frontal lobe, right? If you're talking about the frontal lobe and going back to what Ian said and the development of the frontal lobe and where we are as far as medical and when we start developing, right? Then why would you set the parameters for statutory rape to happen inside of the high school?
No, I totally agree with that. I do. I really do. And I knew, like I said, I knew you were going with that. But when I'm speaking on statutory rape, I'm thinking of like someone like I'm 38 years old. I think I'm 38, 39. I'm one of them years old. Like as me going at a high school, you know, talking to a 16, 17-year-old girl. That's statutory.
So then what age? What age did it happen in, Jamie? What then because Shay brings up a good point. If she say high school, so then you got to tell me. You say you're 38, 39, but at what point does it shift? If at 21 you could understand what she's saying in that situation, when would it not be acceptable? When a 21-year-old is not in high school, they happen to have graduated at 17, so four years later.
I mean, even in high school, I mean, quite honestly, man. And I understand what she's saying. Unfortunately, the way it's set up, yeah, a 21-year-old student can't be in school at the same time as a 14-year-old student. I get it. But it doesn't still make it right. You know what I mean?
Well, then why not? If those are your peers,
that's so fucking crazy.
This is why
you know?
I did a thesis, right, on human service professional views on sex offender registry and notification, right? And I do not think that a 21-year-old child, 18-year-old child should be treated the same exact way a 40-year-old man should be treated if he decided he's in high school, he's 18, and he's decided to deal with a 14-year-old girl. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. 18, I can give you. 18, I can give you. I'll be like, okay, yeah, I feel you. But when you get to age 20,
high school, that's their
bro, 21, slick 21, you should be graduating college. I have a 21-year-old son. He just graduated college. Okay, so 21, you should not be looking at 13, 14-year-old girls, children, whatever, and saying, oh, you know what I mean?
But
like you are a whole entire adult.
Right?
What's that?
I only use 21 because that's the age they no longer let you in high school.
That's a great
the only
point too.
use that age. But if they're 21 years old and you're in high school with a 14-year-old, it's still your peer.
It's weird all the way around, fellas. Listen, she opens it up with that argument. Again, I mean, however valid, it still makes me feel a little uncomfortable. But I mean, again, when I just don't understand when do we say it's wrong? Like, when do you say it's wrong? Like, this shit is crazy.
That's part of the problem, G. You know what I'm saying? Our culture is just different from the culture that reigns supreme over us right now. They're setting the laws, they're setting the standards for us that sometimes we're saying doesn't make sense. So going back to accountability, how can we be accountable for ourselves, for our people, according to how we understand life? Going back to the whole age thing, so it's not okay for a kid, because I've seen it from time to time. A kid that's 19, that's right out of high school, to be with another kid that's 17, he gets in trouble. But
yeah,
but a sister can graduate and become 18. She can get with a 52-year-old. That's okay.
Listen,
and here's the double standard, and I agree with you, Anya, because here goes the accountability. Cardi B talks about, and I think you guys posted on this thing, right? How women do it all the time, right? A lot of strippers, prostitutes, they drug these men and rob them, right? They drug them, have sex with them, and rob them, right? But they're not. Is the police going after Cardi B?
It's funny you bring that up. It was a meme that I grabbed from page I'm following where they had compared Bill Cosby and Cardi B, and at the top of the meme it said black self-hate and selective accountability or something like that in a nutshell. And they just basically ran down what Bill Cosby went through and how black women wanted them dead, wanted them in jail. You understand? Me Too movement, all of that. Cardi comes out and she says what she says, and she's considered, well, she had to do what she had to do,
Here's the thing, and I'm probably going to be judged for this, what I'm getting ready to say, because I am a female at the end of the day. It's a double standard. Because women rape men all the fucking time. Am I not? If I decided, my husband said, no, I don't want to have sex. And I get on top of him. And I decide that I'm going to have sex. And I'm going to do what I need to do so I can get off, right? I raped him. At the end of the day, he said no, right? But if he called the police, and I'm using that as an example, and he called the police, he wouldn't be taken as seriously if I did the same exact thing.
Whoa.
But ultimately, I raped them. I'm not saying I raped them. That's not what I'm saying. Let's be clear with that.
But that sounds like what you're saying. But let me ask you a question, though. Let me ask a question, because you're bringing up your husband. Would that be the same if it was separated, even if you're in a marriage? Because I've heard situations where the man put themselves on the wife. The wives might have said something about it, but it's taken less serious because that's your husband.
That's your duties.
It's your duties as a wife. However, under the cuspice of what the word rape is, right? And I agree with that. As your wife and your husband, it is my duties to perform under, your obligations, but that's biblical. If you talk legally, right? When someone says no, it is rape, whether it's from a man or whether it's from a woman.
Yeah.
So now we're getting into, but what we're getting into now, even with the Cardi B, and let's say, let's do somebody a little less egregious, right? Let's talk about Tavis Smiley, right? Tavis Smiley versus Cardi B, right? So Cardi B has now a rape allegation from this young brother. I think his name is Kevin Smith or something like that, right?
No, he already real quick. He came out and said that he was bullshitting.
Okay, but let's talk about when it first happened, though, right? So the allegation comes out, and immediately the sentiment is, oh well, not only was he in a room with a stripper, but he was also soliciting sex, so he deserved it. You know what I'm saying? And if he got robbed, then he deserved it, right? Mm-hmm. And then let's talk about Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley gets accused. I think 2 days later they pulled this show, right? Yeah. The accusation. It wasn't even like, any evidence. Just somebody accused him. They pulled the show, took away all his airtime or whatever endorsements he had. They got pulled. It's like 2 days, right? Yeah. Cardi B, this accusation came out. The guy came out and maybe rescinded it maybe a week later, 4 days later, 5 days later. They still had people doing interviews about Cardi B on the show. Like, oh man, if this accusation is real, what's to happen? Oh, by the way, this is the new Cardi B track. Listen to this.
Man, listen.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
When you talk about a double standard, that's in a nutshell.
Let me ask you a question. We're gonna jump into
real quick, and I gotta get going real quick.
All right, so then let me just set final thoughts, and you let this be your final thought. Go ahead. What's your final thought, Jimmy?
I ain't get too deep into Cardi B, but I hear what y'all saying. And at the end of the day, and I'm going to be unpopular, but that's okay. I'm already being a bad guy. Man, like, chicks get raped all the time. And my mother say, well, maybe she shouldn't have been doing this. Maybe she shouldn't have been doing that. Maybe she shouldn't have had that on. Maybe she'd had this, that, and the third. Well, maybe this nigga shouldn't have let her fix a drink. And she didn't even rape the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? And then meanwhile, the same people that are saying, oh, there's a double standard, blah, 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 blah. They're banging that Rick Ross song when he talk about doing the same thing to chicks and raping them, bro. So where's the double standard at, B?
Go ahead, Shay. Give me your final thought, Shay. Give me your final thought.
You gotta come back to me.
Hey, Ian. Listen, man. I'm trying to figure out what's the final thoughts. Jamie's talking about a little Cardi B stuff. But what you think? What's the final thoughts on the whole accountability in the culture?
So people bring up my final thoughts on overall accountability to because we're talking about what's going on in society right now, right? So yeah, Rick Ross has a song talking about basically drugging and having sex with girls, right? But no girls have come forward and said, hey, that was me, right? No girls have come forward now, publicly and said, hey, I'm that girl that he was talking about. That happened to me with Rick Ross. And so we haven't been able to see the timeline between that girl saying that and what happens to Rick Ross, right? In the song, but nothing happens. Cardi B comes out and says it. And then somebody comes out and says, hey, that was me. And she raped me, right? And nothing happens, right? It's just, hey, let's defend Cardi B. Tavis Smiley has an accusation. He loses everything, right? Bill Cosby has an accusation. Or a few accusations, or a lot of accusations, everything, right? So when we're talking about accountability, I think when we talk about today's society, it's like one thing is, hey, if you did something, and let's say it involves rape, you should be held accountable for it, right? But at the same time, if it's 50 years ago, if it's 30 years ago, if it's 15 years ago, and there's no evidence to support it, we have to look at, okay, what happened 15 years ago? Did this woman or this man come out and say, hey, this happened to me, and everybody swept it under the rug? Or is it just a pop by the fly, hey, this guy's rich, somebody else said it, let me bring up something else too and say that, let me see if I can capitalize. So my final thoughts on this, I think we're just in a dangerous time. I think we're in a dangerous time for both women, because I think women believe they can get away with anything without any accountability, which leads them to situations where they're becoming victims of their own accord. Right. And then with black men, especially, man, that's a whole nother conversation, because we've been removed from being able to be held accountable or held ourselves accountable for so long. Right. We've been kicked out of households. We've been thrown in jail. We've been removed as far back as slavery, when they should just take the male sons from the women and sell them off right away. right? Just so it wasn't no chance of this woman, in the family structure, and then that man becomes something strong and inciting rebellion. No, we're gonna sell him off right away, remove him from his power structure, right? Which would be his father and his mother, right? And just put him all alone in the world. So we gotta tackle all of those things. And Anya was saying about basically just us formulating our own structure. And that goes back to, man, we got to get out of here because we can't do that.
Tell you
here,
what,
right?
I see where you going. Yeah, I see where you going. That back to Africa. That we gonna have to.
Right? You had the Black Panthers. What happened to them? That was exactly what Anya was talking about. We're gonna formulate our own structure. We're gonna hold our own communities accountable, and that got weeded in from the outside and the inside, and it was blown up from the outside and the inside, right, by the power structure, because that power structure that looms over us is God to us. It holds all the legality. It holds all of the rights to property and land and business and commerce. It holds everything, right? So
we need to bring. Let me say, Ian, I hate to cut you because we in the final thoughts, but listen, we got to bring you back for the discussion we've been having with ADOS and Pan Africanism, because where you going? I kind of want to open up some conversations with you, but we're gonna get into that. DB. Final thoughts, man.
I'm going to try to make a parallel where we first started with R. Kelly, because I think about it like the fact we know the man said that he was molested himself. So he was brought into the world a damaged man. So that means we should hold those people accountable. As far as his actions, we should hold him accountable. As far as the parents, we should hold them accountable. As far as everybody that fed his thing, we should hold him accountable. And I use that to say that when we're talking about accountability, is the community as a whole that should be held accountable. We should hold ourselves accountable just as the person himself that's held accountable, because if we're going to control anything, we have to put that into effect. It's a lot when we talk about the situation, more than one man. It's the whole community. But that's my mandate.
Hey, come on, man. Where we at? Final thoughts.
I don't know, man. They said it all. Yeah, man. We just gotta hold men and women to the same type of standards when we're talking about accountability, man. Let's be accountable over ourselves as much as possible, over our communities as much as possible, over our families, over our own actions, over our own thoughts, and let's try to figure out some type of standard of accountability for us to go by. Otherwise, we all over the place, and you know what I'm saying, we just continue to be a confused community.
Well, folks, listen, man. I'm gonna go ahead and end this thing off this way, man. As far
Okay, I'm ready for my last thought. Jesus,
hold on. I did forget about you. You passed. What's up, Shay? Go ahead.
I didn't pass. I said I needed a moment.
All right, so give me. All right, give me a.
Yeah, I was trying to be respectful.
All right, give me a few. Give me a few bars real quick before we get out of here.
Real quick. As far as accountability, I would just say, be accountable for yourself first. If you govern yourself and you deal with yourself and you start working on you, then you changing yourself would then eventually resonate to the rest of the
episode. She cooking all episode, folks. Man, she took the words out of my mouth. I'm this topic, accountability and integrity, and that stuff is real big to me because I told you I'll be 40 at the end of the year, man. And the last time that
I think he wants a. Oh, that's
listen,
why he
you had your time to speak. I haven't exercised the mute button yet, but I will go ahead and do that. Don't interrupt me. Like I was saying, the last time that I compromised my integrity, I almost lost everything. I ain't gonna get into the specifics because we gotta get out of here. But the last time I compromised my integrity, I almost lost it all, man. But at the end of the day, I was accountable for my actions then, and I'm accountable for my actions now. And that's the reason why I can stand on that stuff, when it seems like I'm judging, others. But folks, we had a great show. Listen, man, we had a lot of people today, a lot of information, man. We had my man Ian. We had my man Jamie. First Lady of the Guru, Shay. Our man DB and Anye. Check out that YouTube/Reality Gurus and make sure y'all subscribe. Hit that bell notification so y'all can get this good content as soon as it comes out. I'm G Cleve. Take care.